Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Harbaugh came in, according to sources I've talked to, the last 24 hours. His intention was, I'm going there to sign a contract. And that just was not the case. This was a real job interview where he had to sell the team on him being the best fit for the job. And the fact is, it just did not, both sides did not agree eye to eye on kind of what the entire thing was. And that's why he left Minnesota on Wednesday without an offer.
Dude, amazing.
Reckless speculation.
Oh, happy Reckless Speculation Thursday. It's Mackey and Judd. We got our friend Darren Doogie Wolfson in here from the 5 Eyewitness News sports department. He's got his little TV dress shirt on. Where's the tie, Doogs?
I'll get it on later. Phil, in fact, right now, I am pantsless. I don't need to show you the visual for those who are watching.
Sources tell me.
I don't even need to know that, Doogie.
Yeah, it's been a crazy 48 hours. I wasn't even entirely sure what the heck my TV schedule would be today, but yeah, I'll be on TV later today. So I am half dressed as we talk here at 10:10 Central on Thursday morning. Happy Reckless Speculation Thursday.
Yeah, that's the image we are all
Oh, I know. Absolutely. I can only imagine.
So I'm envisioning, let's unpack all of this. Yesterday was just a crazy turn of events in some ways, just based on the way that everything looked like it was headed. But we'll get into all of it. I'm envisioning, though, Jim Harbaugh with his chiseled jawline walking into the Vikings practice facility yesterday with his little khakis, some sort of pen hanging out of the collar of his crew neck sweater. He was going to shake about 6 different hands and then grab a pen and sign a contract. And instead, the Wilfs and the other people involved in the search said, we actually have 6 hours of questions we need to ask you about the way things ended in San Francisco. And I'm envisioning Jim being like, I think I'm good. I think I'm just going to call my guys at Michigan. So I don't know. Dukes, where do you want to start with this thing? What a day yesterday.
Yeah, we can unpack any number of angles. Let's remember, Judd and I talked about this on Tuesday, that Kwesi, when he initially interviewed on, January 17th via Zoom, was asked to give the Vikings committee, a list of coaching candidates. That's when Jim Harbaugh's name first came to light. It's not like the committee of the Wilfs, Andrew Miller, Rob Brzezinski, Jamal Stevenson, Ryan Munnins, and Deppner had Jim Harbaugh on their radar. He was not, I'm sure in large part because of the weirdness, the goofiness. Heck, I heard Hall of Famer ex-Viking Chris Carter on NFL Network on Wednesday suggesting that Jim Harbaugh is a weirdo. Chris certainly isn't the only big name to attach that sort of commentary to Jim. So Kwesi brings up the name Jim, also brought up the name Kevin O'Connell, also brought up the name Patrick Graham. These are things Judd and I discussed on Tuesday. So they go ahead, based on Kwesi's recommendation, to move forward with Jim. But it's what Courtney said. It's what we talked about, Judd, on Tuesday. Jim did think he was coming here with every intention of signing a contract. That being a head coach for 19 years, having the success that he's had every stop along the way, that this was a mere formality. He was coming here. He was going to sign a contract. Phil, you've been on top of Harbaugh information going back multiple days. Your intel had been Harbaugh wanted back in the NFL. In fact, he had reached out to potential assistant coaches. Phil, you were the first person I saw who had that information. You had the information that he had done some homework on Kirk Cousins, that he's a fan of Kirk Cousins. So, there was a lot going on there, but he still had to sell himself to Mark Wilf, to others. Now, Ryan Munnins, Jamal Stevenson in Mobile, but others at TCO Performance Center. Andrew Miller for sure. And it just didn't happen. Something turned after lunch. I'm trying to pinpoint exactly what. Maybe
that chili's not sitting well.
Guys,
I gotta take a break. That
it was mid-afternoon.
Match was good, but I'm out.
Yeah, and then Adam Schefter broke the news about 6:35. But it started to shift in that 3, 4 o'clock, 2:30, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock range. And I'm still trying to pinpoint exactly what. But make no mistake about this. Harbaugh came here thinking, I will be the next Vikings coach. The Vikings brass just didn't see it that way. I know going back to that initial Zoom conversation with Kevin O'Connell now, 12 days ago, then the in-person interview Monday in Los Angeles, I always knew they had a healthy opinion of Kevin O'Connell. Heck, even before the Monday interview, remember, in this time slot last Thursday, Phil, at the very end, you said to Judd, who will be the next Vikings coach? I'm putting you on the spot. Give
Kevin
me
O'Connell.
a name. We both said Kevin O'Connell because we had that steam that initial conversation went so well. The background work on him went really well. And I always thought an offensive-minded coach would be the hire. So, sure, before in-person interviews, sure, I was guessing a little bit, but I'd like to think it was a somewhat educated guess. That's why I gave you that name, Kevin O'Connell, last Thursday.
So I think that it's safe to say, in retrospect now, with the process basically done, that the committee definitely liked O'Connell, and that Harbaugh had to convince them. And as much as I love and embrace conspiracy theories and what might have gone wrong, and could there be some like underlying thing, I love that stuff because
I missed that show.
It's coming back February 24th.
Oh, nice.
NBC
On
the
a real
original.
network? Oh, good.
NBC.
Because I don't
on a
have
real network.
Peacock. I don't have.
No,
You know, we
NBC
do have
bringing it
Netflix,
back.
though. Good,
NBC.
nice.
So
All right.
anyway, as much as I love to embrace the conspiracy theories in coaching searches and in life, I'm going to say this. I think it's very possible that about halfway through the session on Wednesday, the realization hit all sides. This is not a fit. I don't think it's got to be some magic turning point of oh, this is going bad now. I think that this committee had a view, guys, right or wrong, of what they wanted. And Kwesi was important, but he was not the final absolute, I'm the voice here. So I think that there's a very good chance we find out that at some point in time, all sides said, you know what? This doesn't really work out that well. Timing, the fact that in the eyes of some, Jim and Zim were seen as being too much alike. I don't know that there's a magic bullet here. I think it might have just been a realization that for what this team wants to do from a coaching standpoint and a rebuild of at least two of the most important people in that building, that Kevin O'Connell in 2022 right now is a better fit.
Yes. Well, I mean, this is the trend in recent years, right, in the NFL, to hire a bright, young, innovative offensive mind. I'm with you, Judd. Like, I don't think there was any sort of like FU shouting match.
Right.
I do think it was mutual. You know, now Schefter got his information presumably from the Michigan side, being a Michigan guy, and it was framed as if Jim Harbaugh said, thanks, but no thanks. The Vikings put it out quickly to many of us. Hey, we never made him an offer. So that's fine if he walked away. But yeah, bottom line, they just didn't see the fit. I am sure there is truth to those buzzwords. Collaboration, inclusion. Remember, was it Brian O'Neill or Eric Kendricks or a combination of both? The season-ending media sessions they had about, hey, a guy who can walk by us in the hallway, say hi, ask us about our family. That wasn't Jim Harbaugh, but clearly, led by Kwesi, there was some level of interest.
Oh, yeah.
And you knew all along, like at 58 years old, Jim Harbaugh is who he is, right? Like, he's not changing. So maybe they just needed to see it up close, you know, just to confirm everything that they knew. But in the event that maybe they felt like he had changed somewhat, hey, we will extend him an offer. But yeah, the offer, it never came. But I'm just telling you, Jim Harbaugh flew into town 2 nights ago with every intention of signing a contract on Wednesday.
To the point, so let's go down this path for just a second here, because I've seen some people in the media, fans, you know, why would they disrespect a coach like Jim Harbaugh? Why would you fly him in for an interview if you didn't plan on making him an offer? And if I'm about to hire someone to basically run my multi-billion-dollar business, and the last multi-billion-dollar business he helped run, there was kind of a fiery car crash at the end of it, I'd want to get the guy in a room for 6 hours and ask some questions. Like, I don't think you can figure out how much has he changed or evolved or adapted. And plus, by the way, the NFL is not the same as it was when he last coached in it. I don't think you can figure this stuff out over a Zoom interview. So I have no problem with them flying him in. Now, if there was some miscommunication in the expectations and maybe he thought something that wasn't like, okay, maybe there was a breakdown in communication, but like bringing a guy in for 7, 8, 9 hours when you're planning on giving him the keys to the franchise, like that's a prerequisite to me. I have no problem with the way the Vikings handled this.
I have zero problem with how the Vikings handled this, Phil. I think they communicated, the Vikings, pretty clearly that, Jim, you're not promised anything. But if you're Jim Harbaugh,
Jim's like,
after
that's
being
great.
a head
All
coach
right,
for
that's
19 years, I guess I get it. Now, my understanding is Jim Harbaugh doesn't even have an agent. So I don't know who he was leaning on for advice. Maybe his older brother in Baltimore, John Harbaugh, some other confidants. But, like, I'm thinking this was more Jim just looking at the situation saying, look at my competition. A 36-year-old offensive coordinator who called plays a little bit in Washington but hasn't called plays the last couple years. Patrick Graham only has ascended up to coordinator. Yeah, Raheem Morris, former head coach, but was fired a decade ago. Like, look at my competition. Of course, this is my job. So there was some sort of disconnect there. There really was. I'd love for Jim Harbaugh, to communicate verbally, not just via text message, although good get by Chris Thomason of the Pioneer Press, getting Harbaugh to text him back. And it was a classy text he sent Chris about wishing the Vikings all the best, whatever he said about the process. Hey, Ziggy, Mark, all the best to them. I'm happy for the opportunity. But, like, just something went amiss there. But I don't think it was necessarily the Vikings. I'm just telling you that, Phil. I think it was more Harbaugh. I really do.
And I guess the question is, from his standpoint too, is, and we don't know this yet, did he get Michigan to up their offer? Because if he did, good for him. Because there was Dukes a standing contract offer for him to come back, correct? And he's going to get a raise. I guess
not Mel Tucker money. You look at the Michigan State coach.
Oh, right. But I'm just...
Yeah, well, that's the competition in that state, right? If you're the Michigan coach, you're looking at the Michigan State coach saying, right, I need to make more money than that guy. And I don't think Michigan's paying Jim Harbaugh north of 10 years, $95 million.
No, I'm sure that's probably correct.
Yeah. Okay. One other thing here, just on Kevin O'Connell, because I'm in on Kevin O'Connell. I'm very interested in the Sean McVay coaching tree. Obviously, that entire coaching tree seems innovative, well prepared to be head coaches to this point. I still think if your goal is to win as many games as possible, I think people are painting Jim Harbaugh as this risk, and this is my big reservation of all this. Like, it's like Jim Harbaugh is a risk because of his volatile personality. It's like, well, despite that, he went 44-19 and went to 3 straight NFC Championship games. I'm staring at a list that is miles long of hot up-and-coming coordinators the last 10 years in the NFL who flamed out and were failures as head coaches. Now, some of it was maybe they didn't get the right quarterback, or maybe they were set up to fail with the roster and things like that, like Brian Flores, right? But to me, Kevin O'Connell, and I'm in on him, is a bigger risk when it comes to winning games than Jim Harbaugh. Am I wrong?
No, not wrong at all. But could he be the next Zach Taylor? The next Matt LaFleur? The next Sean McVay? It's possible. Could he be the next Matt Nagy? Although wasn't Matt Nagy coach of the year at one point and now fired? Could he be the next Joe Judge? Yeah, I mean, Phil, he could. Like, we don't know. I've heard good things. How about this for a segue? Before hopping on this StreamYard with you guys, I was catching up with Joe Theismann. I'm going to Zoom with Joe Theismann later. So Joe is still tied into the Washington Football Organization, does their preseason games, I believe. He's still over at their practice facility all the time. He has spent a lot of time going back to when O'Connell was on the Washington coaching staff, just picking his brain. Joe was telling me over the phone before we Zoomed this afternoon just how great of a hire this is. And I don't think Joe would have gotten back to me. I texted him. He called me back within 30 seconds, just gushing about Kevin O'Connell. Now, I get it. That's just one person's opinion, but I value the opinion of Joe Theismann. Mm-hmm. Hearing from some others, there's a lot to like. Houston had interest. Jacksonville wanted to interview him, but seemingly they're botching their they started the search before anybody, so seemingly they're botching their search. Although, heck, Rick Spielman may end up down there as an executive vice president. Maybe they end up hiring Doug Peterson. Maybe it ends up really well in the end. But the optics of the Jacksonville search make you question a lot of things. Then Denver had interest, right? George Payton and company. So he was on the radar of multiple teams. It was when, not if. Now, maybe the when is a bit aggressive this cycle compared to a year from now or 2 years from now, but Kevin O'Connell's time was certainly coming.
And on the LaFleur and Taylor comps, certainly as well, Dukes, there becomes the key point, which is this now. Can Kwesi and O'Connell identify the quarterback? Because if you do, you win. And if you don't, you might win a little bit, but you're probably almost certainly not going to go to or win a Super Bowl. So I really think that becomes the talking point. It's not just the coaching tree, but, the Bengals in 2019, 2-14, man, life sucks. Oh, hold on a second. We got the first pick and it's a generational quarterback talent, Joe Burrow. So I think that's the next thing. And there's luck and skill involved there too. But I really believe that's the important step then for fulfilling the promise of what the GM and coach start with.
Well, and to that point, I'm just picking through some of this Athletic article today too from Chad Graff. And one of the nuggets he had was the Vikings. So they were blown away by Kevin O'Connell, in the interview process. But in that Monday finalist meeting in Los Angeles, O'Connell had studied the team's roster from the previous season. He came prepared with ideas on how to improve the team and was able to offer a nuanced review of quarterback Kirk Cousins, who, of course, he coached for a couple seasons in Washington. And so what it doesn't say is was that nuanced review, guys, we have to extend him for 5 years, or it was, I worked with him. I'm not sold. We don't know.
Well, and I'll be digging on that angle. Kevin O'Connell's agent is Trace Armstrong, who's one of the power agents in the game. Former Chicago Bear, played in the NFL. Trust me, Trace, he had others. Kevin was always going to be overly prepared. So I'm not surprised by that. For what it's worth, Theismann thinks Cousins will stick. That it's his belief that Cousins and O'Connell have a good relationship. It's his belief also, by the way, that the Vikings picked the brain of Kirk Cousins, doing their due diligence about Kevin O'Connell. Now, to what extent, I'll try to figure that out later today and over the next handful of days. I did say on TV last night that my prediction is a trade is coming. Just because some of the scuttlebutt during the year, heck, going back to his decision to not get the vaccine, some of the rift that caused, that I do feel like there's some in that personnel department in favor of a trade. But I'm just telling you, for what it's worth, Joe Theismann, with his insight, thinks Kirk Cousins will stick it out that Kevin O'Connell wants Cousins as his quarterback.
And I do think that it's fair to say, Dukes, that from the people that we have talked to since the vaccine controversy with Kirk, it feels like a lot of people in that building right now have an important voice. And I think Kirk lost the majority of those people.
Yes.
So like O'Connell and Mike come in and say, well, I mean, I see some things there. And Kwesi might be like, oh, okay. But it certainly appears right now that we are going towards a purple era of collaboration, right? And,
yes.
And it's very interesting that I really think that as of late last summer, Kirk Cousins had lost a large portion of that building. And I think what those people think and say now matters.
I think that's true. That's why
it didn't 6 months ago.
It's not like I know for sure as I sit here on February 3rd that a trade is or isn't coming. It's not like I can say anything with 100% confidence. But yeah, I'm reading the tea leaves to some extent based on, what I said, what you just said, Judd, knowing the opinions of some of those over at TCO Performance Center. And yeah, thinking about the collaboration that is now taking place more so than ever. Because it's not like Rick was, a dictator, Spielman. There was some collaboration going on with Rick, but now it's to another level.
Right.
That's why I'm just, it's a little bit of a guess, but again, I guess a little bit of an educated guess at least. That I think they can part ways. Now, there is not a transformational quarterback. It doesn't appear in this draft class. In next year's draft class, it looks like it, right? Bryce Young of Alabama looks like he has superstar written all over him. And a lot of people like the Ohio State quarterback, C.J. Stroud. But I'm not sure there is a transformational quarterback in this draft class. That being said, with pick 12, every quarterback could certainly still be on the board at pick 12. So if the Vikings identify a guy, the guy from Liberty, the guy from Pittsburgh, the guy from North Carolina, whomever it might be, hey, maybe you pull the trigger at pick 12.
Yeah, we got our guy Tyler Fornes from Climbing the Pocket and NBC
Yeah, he's down in
Sports Edge.
Mobile right now. Yeah.
He's been texting us like videos of Malik Willis and Carson Strong. So Malik Willis is
Strong too from Nevada.
Yeah, Malik Willis is going to be the guy that flies up draft boards after the Senior Bowl, and then he's going to be a combine wonder, right? Because he's so athletic. But I like right now, I think Kiper and McShay both have him outside the top 10. Guaranteed, he will be the hot. And then you have to figure out, do you have the coaching staff with Kevin O'Connell and whoever he hires to take a guy like Malik Willis, or maybe you trade up a couple spots and mold him, or do they decide to ride it out with Kirk for one more year, see what happens, and then aim for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, that's the elephant in the room. I can make a case, even though there's no proof that the Wilfs are willing to do this 16 years body of work. But yeah, try to hit the reset button this year. Now, maybe the reset button is like what happened in Philadelphia, and you still find a pathway to making the playoffs. Maybe Philadelphia didn't quite hit the reset button, but 2021 was a rebuild in many ways in Philadelphia, yet they made the playoffs. But with all these veterans, with all these guys on expiring contracts, 19 unrestricted free agents, 1 restricted free agent, do you make a call on Michael Pierce saying, hey, it's time to go? Do you make a call on Harrison Smith, Adam Thielen, Danielle Hunter, Kirk Cousins? Maybe it is time to hit that reset button and really aim to compete starting in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dukes. Wolves, red hot. Wait. In fact, wait for it, Phil.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Let's
Get the flag?
transition.
Are you going
Let's
for it?
transition. Yeah, let's do it. Let's transition.
Wrong
No,
guy.
wrong guy. There we go. White flag. All right. There we are. Minnesota Timberwolves trade deadline comes up February 10th, if I'm not mistaken, quickly approaching. What can you tell us about Sachin Gupta's plans for this franchise, which looks like it very well could get in the playoffs? Forget the play-in tournament.
Yes, sir. Dallas lost last night. Denver lost last night.
Denver
The 5 and 6 seed.
Get the flag.
Hold
Gotta
on.
get the flag.
When
Get
that
the
happens,
flag.
Doogie, we got to get the flag. You triggered it.
Hey, keep waving it because the next 4 games, 2 against Detroit, 2 against Sacramento. When we talk next Thursday, the Wolves should be 30 and 25. They should win these next 4 games.
Well, they're probably going to go 3-1 though, right?
Well,
Like,
maybe
they're
they
not-
lose in Sacramento. Maybe.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves here.
Cade Cunningham is banged up. I don't know if he's playing tonight for Detroit or not, Phil, but you should beat the Pistons twice. But yeah, maybe you lose once to Sacramento. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking 30 and 25. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, Judd. Can you find a way to avoid the play-in tournament? Because the fear, I talked with Bobby Marks for a while for a Scoop podcast that I'll post at some point in the next couple days. I talked with Bobby for about 40 minutes or 35 minutes on Wednesday. We went back and forth on the nightmare scenario of, okay, Wolves are the 7 seed. The Clippers or the Lakers are the 8 seed. The Clippers at that point have Paul George, Kawhi Leonard back, and some other guys. The Lakers have Anthony Davis, LeBron James. The Lakers are trying to do some stuff before next Thursday. The trade deadline, 1 week from today. Next Thursday, early afternoon. But could you imagine 7-seed Wolves against 8-seed Lakers? Yeah, the game would be at Target Center. But, I don't know if I like a one-game scenario against LeBron and AD. So you could maybe lose that game. Okay, the Lakers win that game. The Lakers then are the 7 seed in the playoffs. The Wolves then play the winner of the 9-10 game. Okay, let's say that's the Clippers. The Clippers get by the Blazers. So then to make the playoffs, it's a 1 game. Yes, at Target Center, but it's a 1 game against the Los Angeles Clippers with surely Paul George, maybe Kawhi Leonard. That would be a nightmare scenario, having to beat the Lakers and Clippers just to make the playoffs, just for the right to play likely the Phoenix Suns or Golden State Warriors in a best of 7. If you are the 6th seed, it's likely you will play the Memphis Grizzlies. That would be best case scenario. Memphis looks great. Memphis would be favored. But you mean to tell me the Wolves in a best of 7 couldn't find a way to beat the Memphis Grizzlies? I don't think
agree.
it's nuts. I really
No.
don't. So that's why the 6th seed is so important. Avoid Phoenix and Golden State. Avoid the potential of Lakers Clippers in the play-in just to play Phoenix or Golden State. Just make the playoffs. Then you open up against the Memphis Grizzlies. That would be best case scenario. In terms of the trade deadline, hat tip to Jared Weiss, John Krasinski of The Athletic. They had the initial steam on these Wolves Celtics talks. Here's when where I can advance that story. So here's what I was told. I'm reading this verbatim. Minnesota definitely trying to trade for Marcus Smart of the Boston Celtics. But unless they include a first-round pick or Jaden McDaniels in addition to Malik Beasley, most likely doesn't get done. Boston countered, offering Josh Richardson and a young wing, either Romeo Langford or Aaron Nesmith, for Beasley. Minnesota countered with Marcus. That's where the disconnect has been between the Celtics and the Wolves in these trade talks. So the Wolves are trying to send Malik Beasley to Boston. Boston wants some shooting help, looking at more the big picture, not necessarily Malik's shooting numbers this year, but his overall shooting numbers. So Boston says, okay, we would like some shooting help. Give us Malik Beasley. But the Wolves are saying, unless Marcus Smart is coming back our way, there is no match.
Yeah, Malik will help you with shooting in more than one way, too. It'll be great for Boston.
Yeah. There are off-the-court red flags there. There's no doubt. But you know what? He's been fine, ever since the Plymouth incident. My understanding is there have not been any red flags. So I'm sure Boston's done its due diligence on Malik. They are interested in trading for Malik Beasley, but only if they can give up Josh Richardson and, say, Aaron Nesmith. I don't think they're giving up Marcus Smart in a Malik Beasley package, unless they're getting that first-round pick and or Jaden McDaniels. But the Wolves are casting a wide net. They've talked to Houston. They've talked to Portland. They've talked to Philadelphia. They've talked to Washington, I know. I'm sure others, but I can tell you for sure those teams. I also was told last week that the Wolves had a high-ranking front office official scouting for trade purposes the Philadelphia 76ers. It wasn't the opponent Philadelphia was playing that night, but it was specifically Philadelphia. Unfortunately, I don't know which player. We know it wasn't Ben Simmons. He's not playing, but that the Wolves were keying in on some player on Philadelphia interested in some trade chatter.
Okay, let me ask you, I'm going to just rapid fire here. Percent chance of, and you give me to the best of your knowledge, the percent chance of here. Percent chance of some kind of trade in the next week. Just overall percent chance of some kind of trade.
85%.
Okay.
Wow.
Percent chance that they trade Pat Beverly, who I see his name continues to sort of pop up. I hate that idea, by the way.
22%.
Really? That's pretty high.
That's his number, right?
I think that's his number, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very.
Well, okay. I'll even go a little bit lower. But know this. Can I pontificate for a second, even though you just want a one-word answer?
Yeah.
So Beverly and his agent have been trying for this contract extension for weeks upon weeks. They want this contract extension. The two sides have not come to an agreement. So if there's an opportunity to bring in, say, Marcus Smart, then the Wolves would say, okay, thanks for everything, Pat Bev, but we will send you on your way. There's an injury history there. We're seeing it right now. He's back now, but we've seen it this year. Like, he misses games. That's why I'm fine guaranteeing money for next year. I couldn't fully guarantee Beverly 2 years out. Partial guarantee, sure. So make it a 2-year contract extension, second year partial guarantee. I could not guarantee that second year. And I believe the Wolves feel the same way, but they'd love to have him here for the next couple of years. If he proves he's healthy, he'd be here for the next 2 years. But just also know this, Phil, unless you're Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Edwards, there is a possibility you get traded.
Yeah, I just feel like Pat Bev has helped set the tone for this entire organization, and maybe I'm overrating and overvaluing. I mean, even when he's in street clothes, I just feel like his presence gives this team more confidence than they would have had if he wasn't here, even when he's not playing.
You're right. I would not trade him. I want him here for bare minimum the play-in tournament, hopefully beyond the play-in tournament.
Okay.
And like you can throw out the name Jared Vanderbilt. I would tell you about 3%, but I can't say zero. I can tell you 0 on Ant. I can tell you 0 on Cat. Like, I think Vanderbilt is going to be here February 11th. I do think Beverly is going to be here February 11th. I would look more at Jake Layman, potentially Taurean Prince, although he's been better of late, but that is a big expiring contract.
Not Jake Layman. No, not Jake Layman.
Josh Okogie, if somebody wants Okogie, there was a Hoops Hype report that Utah has a little bit of interest. You're not getting a lot for Josh Okogie, but I could see Josh Okogie being moved. And I can see Sachin being open-minded to moving his 2022 first-round pick. You probably make it lottery protected in the event you don't make the playoffs. So that might, have a little bit of a bearing on what the return is, but I can see him at least exploring the possibility of moving this year's first-round pick.
Okay, a couple more. Percent chance they trade for Ben Simmons in the next week.
They'd love to. I don't see any movement there. I don't. But they'd love to. Phil, they've tried for a while. Going back to June. I mean, they've tried and tried.
I'm way less inspired by him than I was 6 months ago. But
well, he's still the same player. The warts are there with the shooting, but he does so many other things really, really well at a high level. I mean, all defensive player. Like, I don't think any of that has changed. I mean, he's been working out. Yeah, he hasn't played in an actual NBA game for a while, but it's not like he forgot how to play basketball. So
what is Daryl Morey
if you
doing?
liked him in June, you should like him now.
What is Daryl Morey doing, though? Like this one amazes me. You're literally ostracizing the guy, and I get you're mad, but you're dragging his value down.
Well, not only are you dragging his value down, I also don't get what Ben is doing, Judd.
Sure.
Even though he says money doesn't matter, I mean, he has punted away millions upon millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe he feels like, his camp feels like, an arbitrator will give him that money back. They'll go through that process down the road. Mm-hmm. But right now, he has given up a ton of money, millions of dollars. So what the heck are you doing if you're Ben Simmons? But if you're Daryl Morey, the window isn't wide open with Joel Embiid. There's an injury history there. Philadelphia has a legit chance to win the East this year, but so does Brooklyn, so does Milwaukee, so does Miami, so do maybe a couple other teams. The East is stacked. Like, if the Wolves were in the East, it'd be like in 11th or 12th place right now. So thankfully, they're in the lesser of the two conferences, first time in a while, because for so many years, the West was the better of the two conferences, but the Eastern Conference is stacked. But Philadelphia can win the East. So if you're Daryl Morey, Judd, I would make some sort of trade. You can get a decent return right now for Ben Simmons. Bring some sort of package in that can help you win this year. Make a run at the championship this season. You get the right return with the guys they have. Philadelphia can win the championship.
Sorry. No, I thought Doogie was talking about the Timberwolves winning the championship.
Hold on.
Sorry. I
Phil,
heard championship.
How about
And
the
got
Wild?
excited.
We just want meaningful games in April, Phil. We'll worry about the championship later. Just give us meaningful games, plural,
Yeah, we got it.
in April. And
Yeah,
as
you
long as
take
you're the
that. I
7
got
or the
these
8
guys.
seed, you get the 2 games.
Yep. Dukes, give us anything else you got. Oh, did we get to the D'Amico Ryans thing? Give us a couple rapid fire scoops here.
I jotted it down. So here's the update. So I brought up with Judd, D'Amico shares an agent with Kwesi. So I brought that up that, did D'Amico maybe hear that the Vikings were trending in a different direction, so he bailed. I can't necessarily rule that out, but I was told, to advance that note, that he truly does want to grow as a coach, that he feels like he just doesn't have much experience, that he just doesn't feel like he's ready to be a head coach. So he needs some more time. So that is what he conveyed, or his agent conveyed, to the Vikings, that he truly does believe there's some more growing that needs to take place. He is not ready to be a head coach. Thus, that is the main reason why he bailed from the Vikings search.
Interesting. All right, that's Darren Doogie Wolfson. Inside information on this Reckless Speculation Thursday about Minnesota sports teams. You can find him on 5 Eyewitness News with his TV shirt and tie.
And tie on, too.
And
though.
pants.
He's
And
got
pants.
tie.
Pants
You know what? No.
Very important.
No guarantee of pants. On TV?
By the way, Kwesi not getting to Mobile. I thought maybe now with a lot of things wrapped up that he might try to hop on a plane, go catch the last, day and a half, 2 days of the Senior Bowl, but no Kwesi down in Mobile.
He doesn't want it.
There's
It's very
enough
clear.
videos of Malik Willis on
He
social
doesn't-
media.
Nah, he doesn't want
all
it, Phil.
you need.
He doesn't want it. I'm done with him.
He doesn't work hard? Is that what you're saying?
You got to want it. You got to want to be there. Senior Bowl.
I love it. All right, Dukes. Great stuff,
Bye,
man.
Doogie.
Thanks,
All
Dukes.
we'll
All right, see you, boys. Bye-bye.
Darren Doogie Wolfson here on this Reckless Speculation Thursday.
So high in
Mackie
your
and
Wolves.
Judd.
Things are looking good for your Wolves.
He said championship, and I
Dare
jumped
to
the gun
dream.
there. He was
Dare to
talking
dream.
about the Sixers. I mean, listen, the Timberwolves.
I like
If they
to see
do,
excited
they do
like
even
this.
rattle off like 3 out of 4 wins here. They're definitely within striking distance of the 5 seed sometime in the next couple.
I know. I would try. I'd like to see you excited like this. It's great. Long suffering Wolves fan.
Love it. Love it. All right.